Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of KickSaga. This is the series where I interview board game creators right before they're about to launch their projects on Kickstarter to see what they're doing to prepare, and then again after the project has completed to see how things went, learn about any lessons they learned, and hopefully that'll help all the inspiring publishers and game creators that are out there to know what to do, know what to expect, and to have a successful Kickstarter themselves. So today I am happy to have Mathue Ryan, who is the founder of Envy Board Games, and he's going to be talking about his Tiny Game series where they're bringing 3 unique and interesting games, Sirens, Defrag, and 16 Candies, to Kickstarter. So we're going to learn about what he's done to prepare and a little bit about the games themselves. Hey, Mathue, how you doing?
Hi, I'm great. How are you doing?
Excellent. Yeah. Thanks for being here. So this is a cool kind of concept of bringing 3 small games to Kickstarter. That you'll be the first person that I've interviewed in this series that's doing that. So I'd love to learn more about that. But before we get into the games, I understand that this isn't your first rodeo with Kickstarter and that you've done this a couple times before. So if you want to kind of bring us up to speed on a little bit of your background and what brings you to this point, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I started in the board game industry in about 2016, and I got this crazy idea where I was just going to make a drinking party game. And so I just started doing it and started going online and doing some research and joining different Facebook groups. And at the time, it was kind of viewed as really taboo. I actually got a lot of people being like, that's stupid or don't do that, But I was like, I don't care what people say. I'm going to do what I want. But I figured it out, and then I launched a campaign for it in 2018, and it funded. That game's called Don't Get Drunk. It still sells today. It sells really well on Amazon. People love it. It's a fun party social game, so it does really well. Nice. From there, I started working for a different publisher that shall not be named because it was more of a learning experience than anything. But sure. I had a lot of successful campaigns with that publisher as well on Kickstarter. And when things kind of fell apart, I said, you know what? I'm going to work for myself, and because I had already done Don't Get Drunk. So I said, let me go back to Envy Board Games and focus on that. And then last year we had our first, for lack of a better word, hobby style game called Mind Your Business. And that funded as well, fulfilled it in June just before Origins. And that is a solo co-op and competitive experience with 1 to 4 players. And now I'm back with, the Tiny Game series. So that's a bit about my experience and history.
Yeah, cool. So kind of a variety of different types of projects and both working for someone else and working for yourself. And I'm sure there's a lot of lessons you've learned through that process that you'll be bringing to this particular project. So let's talk a little bit about the 3 games then. So what kind of prompted you to bring 3? And they seem to be very different, like styles of games and different themes, even different art and stuff like that. So what prompted you to kind of bring 3 games together? What was the process that led up to that?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm working on Envy Board Games, my indie publishing company, more now, and I do have some larger projects in the works. But as many people know, these take several years to develop and fine tune and get ready for Kickstarter. So I wanted to continue to be able to stay active in the board game community. Also show that I can make quality games and provide good services and stuff like that to the community. So I thought, you know what, if I do a smaller game, I can stay active. I can turn those around a lot quicker than, something that takes, 60, 90 minutes to play versus something that's, Sirens is a 10-minute long game. So it was more of a way of let me stay active in the community and show that I'm, build up my brand as Envy Board Games as somebody who can make quality content or quality product and fulfill it properly and stuff like that. The idea behind the Tiny Game series as well was to have it at a point that was accessible for a lot of gamers at a price point that, again, I'm a newer indie publisher. So it's like, I didn't want to present them with $100 game, like this is a $15 game will be the MSRP on Kickstarter, which I think is a much more approachable, especially too with not to knock any other publishers or stuff like that. But I feel like the faith in Kickstarter has gone down a lot with a lot of people just because of publishers not fulfilling or keeping their promises. So again, this was more of a way like, here's a smaller price point, 15. I'm not going to burn anyone on it, but it's like,
Yep.
at least you don't feel as bad as if you lose out on a $15 thing you backed versus a $100 thing. But again, I'm not going to do that. I have experience fulfilling. I fulfilled all of my games. So it was kind of a way of to like, hey, give me a shot. Let me show you what I can do. And then they're all different themes and they all have different mechanisms and they all have something really unique about them as well. And the thought process behind that was hitting different demographic groups in one consolidated campaign. So we'll have individual, well, you could, if you're only interested in, say, Sirens, you could just back Sirens. But we also have a bundle offer that comes with a really nice sleeve that has the combined art of all the games, some bonus components and stuff, and a highly discounted price point if you get all three together kind of situation.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the thought behind that.
That's great. I love the flexibility of, as a backer, being able to see a bundle of games and say, oh, I like that one or I like those two. Because sometimes I've seen companies bundle a bunch of small games and then it's just, you take them all, it's all or nothing.
Yeah.
And if you only like a couple of them, it's great to be able to get them, or if you like them all, get them all. And it's I've definitely noticed that as well, that it feels like the Kickstarter community in general is getting a little more risk averse. They're, seeing some of these huge bloated
so
Kickstarter campaigns that take years and years and years to fund, if ever. And people are getting out hundreds of dollars on these huge games that just never fulfill. So to be able to come in with, a small price point, super affordable, means it's easier for you to deliver, easier for the backers to, kind of feel good about backing. And like you said, kind of establish yourself as someone who can deliver and be reliable. And that's something to build on. So to me, that sounds really smart. And I hope that's going to work out for you. It seems like it will. Cool. So I would love to kind of dig into, you're the first person that we've interviewed in this series that has experience launching has had experience launching other Kickstarters. So I'd love to kind of approach this from the angle of what you've learned and what you're bringing from your experience on past campaigns to this one. So maybe if you can think of, I know I'm kind of throwing this at you, but off the top of your head, some lessons you've learned from past campaigns that maybe are informing what you're going to be doing with this one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, collectively, all the things I've worked on, you gain experience from it and learn things. I think that's something that's very important too in this industry, is always have an open mind and know that there's always space to learn and grow and learn more. I'm very much believe in that myself, and I'm never like, I know everything. So even when I share my experiences or stuff, I'm like, well, this has been my experience. It doesn't mean it's the only way or the only thing that's right. And some things work for some campaigns that don't work for others as well. So this campaign, I'm not running with any stretch goals on this tiny game series. Main reason is, and I'm not the first person to do campaigns that are combined with multiple games. So I've seen other people that do it, success that they've had, and I've kind of seen things that work and don't work. So I was like, let's not reinvent the wheel here and see where success has already happened and learn from that as well, from other campaigns that other people have done. But I don't have any stretch goals for this one. And I've worked on other projects where I didn't have stretch goals either. And it really hurt the campaign because people were like, well, why should I back it now? What's the point? I'll just wait for retail. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that a lot of times games will never make it to retail, just the simple fact of it. But also, I think it depends on how people look at stretch goals as well. So I have some extra bonus components people will be getting when they back the Kickstarter. And this is more of a thank you to people that are supporting me now versus later on if I potentially do get into, retail or distribution. But main reason I don't have stretch goals is, and I'm not anti-stretch goals either. Like, I like them. It's just these games are so small. I can't really add too much more without them not fitting in the box anymore. So I'm delivering games that have high quality material and components in it, but then it's going to have bonus components. It's all artwork related stuff. It's not like extra gameplay or anything like that. I'm not trying to hit on FOMO of anyone. It's more of like, thank you for supporting me. Now here's some extra things that aren't necessary, but are kind of cool, for the game. So that's my thought on it. But I've had campaigns again where I didn't have stretch goals and people are like, we're not backing it. So we immediately came up with a list of Kickstarter stretch goals that we could implement after talking to our manufacturer and implemented them. And that did really well. It started to bump up our numbers and people started to come and back it. So there's an argument for them and against them. And I think it's just really dependent on the project and what you have. And that project had room to be improved in a lot of ways that we then added those stretch goals to. One thing that I would really, really stress to people, because this burnt me on my first campaign in a big way, is understand your fulfillment and how much it's going to cost you and what's required and all those things. On my first campaign for Don't Get Drunk, I offered international options for delivery, knowing not what I was doing. I think I charged people like $20, and then pretty much everyone on average was 40 to 50 to fulfill because I was fulfilling from the US. And I always try and do the right thing. So I wasn't like, hey, give me more money. So that was a huge learning lesson. And there's a ton of fulfillment companies that you can work with. I do a lot of my own self-fulfillment for the US because that's where I'm located. And it's a great way for me to save money. I actually have guides on it for people that are interested in doing that to save some money. But there's a ton of fulfillment companies in the US that you can work with as well that are good for you, which I won't name a bunch, but there are a ton of them. And then for international shipping, because I learned how expensive it can be, you don't want to alienate yourself from 50% of the board game community, by not providing international product to international customers. And I did a campaign where we just did a US project, which again, everything it's like this might work for your project, might not. It's all situational. But I did one where it was just US, and it really hurt it. It hurt the campaign so much. So what I've been working on are finding fulfillment options for international backers that make sense. Because even if you can offer something internationally, if it's $80 to deliver it, no one's going to buy it anyways, and you're just going to make people angry. So it has to make sense as well. You have to have enough support internationally to justify, well, let me send a pallet to Europe now, so it makes sense to fulfill within there. So I spent, I'm an indie publisher, I'm very indie still, but I spent time establishing international hubs to work with for this campaign as well. And I'm really happy about it because I can offer what I think are really fair shipping prices to international customers this time around. So know your fulfillment and don't shoot yourself in the foot and cost yourself a bunch of money is a huge lesson that I would stress to everyone.
Work it out ahead of time and make sure you have 100%. All the numbers.
And build in a little cushion room too. Even when you have what you think is the number, it's probably wrong. So build in $1 or $2 on top of that.
Because those rates change, right? And they can change when you.
They definitely do. Every year, and they just go up. It's never like, hey, guess what? Shipping prices went down. Everyone's like, no. How much are they going up is basically the question.
Right. Yeah, interesting. Something else I'm curious about for this project in particular is kind of how you're getting the word out. Because they're kind of three very distinct, different types of games. I'm wondering if you're kind of approaching it as, marketing each one individually or marketing them as a group, and how you choose who to market them to and stuff like that. So what is your approach been to that?
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a combination of those. So the way that I market my games is obviously the way that a lot of other people do. So I run Facebook ads. I go to conventions. I organically post in Facebook groups, TikToks, Instagram, stuff like that. But for this one, I've run ads where it's featuring like, hey, look, all 3 games in one cute, cool bundle. And then I'll run ads where it's for each game individually, so that can be focused in the star of that Facebook ad. Because again, they all have slightly different demographic to them, 16 Candies is a family weight game. Sirens is a 1 to 2 player games. Defrag is 1 to 2 players, but I think it really shines as solo, but it also has a Windows 95 look. So there's that nostalgic feel for people. So it's all different. So I've had to run ads towards different audiences. And, there's times where I'm running 3 ads one for Sirens, 1 for 16 Candies, or I've done it where they're all combined. So it's been a combination of that through Facebook. As far as conventions, I'll get like demo booths or stuff like that. other games that I can sell as well. So I'll be selling those as I'm showing off games. And then conventions have really helped get the word out a lot. Last year, leading up to Mind Your Business, I decided I was going to start attending conventions as Envy Born Games as an indie publisher. And I think that's one of the best decisions I've ever made because it's helped my company grow just
Nice.
from the networking that you do with all the people you meet in the industry. And it helps you so much to have different people to reach out to, talk to, help each other. You're helping them with something, they're helping you with something, or people are seeing you and noticing the work that you're doing, bigger publishers. It's surprising. Like I'll get emails from some of these larger publishers sometimes. I'm like, they know I exist. That's cool.
Nice.
And I think conventions played a large part of that. And I know they can be like intimidating for some people or like a little uncomfortable, but like, I always just try and tell myself like, we're all nerds, like none of us are really going to bite too bad, like just say, hey, or whatever. And everyone's super friendly in this community for the most part. That's been 95% of my experience with meeting people. Right. And then organically I have fun and I'm goofy on TikTok. I do a thing where I wear a fanny pack and I dance and I'll pull it out of my fanny pack and dance with the games and stuff. People really like that. In Facebook groups, I engage, depending on the group. If I'm in the Board Game Design Lab or, Board Game Revolution or the board game group, I'm talking about different things. Right. But I think the important thing is to be genuine. Even when I'm posting about my games, I try and make it engaging and ask questions, which is like a rule in a lot of the groups. But you can't just like go in and blanket post and then leave. You have to be active in the communities and genuine in them. And also, the one thing that I hate, and I hope people don't do this, is but when I see the same exact post in like every single group across Facebook that's board game related, it drives me insane. It's like an automatic turn off for me. I'm like, I don't even want to learn about this now because I don't know. It just that really bugs me. But I think just being organic or being real and your organic posting, you're just going to meet people online. Same thing happened in conventions and then running Facebook ads. And thing I would stress too is be on the platforms that you enjoy. I'm not on Twitter I have an account and I work with marketing firms too that help me with some stuff as well. And they handle my Twitter for me. I don't like Twitter. It's not intuitive to me. I don't really get it. So I stay off of it. I'm not a big Reddit guy. So they're doing my Reddit stuff, I don't enjoy Reddit. I know other people love that and the way it's laid out and all that. And good for you. If that's what you like, be there. I enjoy TikTok because I just do goofy, silly stuff. And I love the community. Everyone on TikTok has been so welcoming and friendly. And I've become best friends with some of the people in that community. So that's a bunch of ways that I've, end of rant, I guess. That's a bunch of ways that I've spread the word on my marketing for the game. Sorry.
Yeah, gosh,
you can always cut me off whenever you need as well.
No, this is good stuff. I've been hearing lots of good things about kind of the board game TikTok community, and it's one of those things. I don't use TikTok, and so I'm like hesitant to just jump on another platform. But I am very curious, so I think I might pull the trigger here pretty soon.
I forced myself. I was like anti-TikTok. I'm like, no, I don't need another platform. I forced myself to use it. I posted one day. I posted for a month leading up to the Mind Your Business campaign. And I was really uncomfortable with it and I didn't want to do it at first. And now it's hands down my favorite platform. Nice. Just because of the relationships that's built from it, the fun, the collabs I do with people. It's just awesome. So I highly recommend everyone get on there. But again, if you get on there and after a month or two, you don't like it, don't use it. Be where you enjoy posting,
Just try it out.
Yeah, try it out.
Yeah, I think the kind of the overarching thread that I'm seeing here is, just to be involved in the community. It helps to just be a fan of board games and be involved in all these Facebook groups, going to conventions. At first, just go as a fan, and then eventually get your booth. And the cool thing that you mentioned about like getting noticed and recognized at conventions, and the cool opportunity it presents is that as an indie publisher, you get a booth next to all these big publishers. Like you're on the same level almost as all of these other big publishers, and people walking by, they're going to walk by, the Floodgate Games booth and the I'm blanking on names, the All Play booth or whatever.
That's all we got.
And your booth is going to be right down the road from theirs. And it's like, that's a cool leveler. And it's a cool way to really get noticed. And I hadn't even thought about that. So I like that.
Conventions have been great. I mean, there is a whole if you're new to conventions too, or if you're not attending them from a vendor standpoint, there's like a seniority level too. So there's drafting days. So I'm
Mm,
new to the scene, so I usually draft at towards the end of everyone, and it's usually
yeah,
spots that aren't as desirable, but even still, you can. It's just great to go to them and attend them,
just
and
be
like
there.
there's so many more benefits to them than just a lot of people measure things with strictly just a monetary ROI, and I don't view things like that. Obviously, you want to be like making money or breaking even on stuff, but sometimes I go into situations like a convention because I went to a lot where before I had product to sell, knowing this is going to be a monetary loss for me. But the ROI that I measured here was who did I
Yeah.
meet? Who am I friends with now? Who am I networking with? Who am I working now because of it? Did any people follow my game or join my email list? There's other things to consider than just strictly monetary
Right.
things.
Yeah, it's hard to measure the ROI on a convention because the people you meet there are going to keep paying dividends, forever down the
Yeah.
line. So
I'm trying to do stuff long term too. So me, it's
yeah,
like this is all long term plays, so I can be okay with that. If it was just one game and then I'm out,
yep.
then maybe I'd be looking at things a little bit different.
So cool. Another thing I'm interested in with the three unique games is how you're approaching reviewers. And are you talking to reviewers and having them do all three? Are you, sending different games to different reviewers based on the types of games they review? How are you approaching that?
Yeah, so with content creators, with the series, I will reach out to them and basically I'll present all three. Be like, hey, I'm doing a tiny game series. I like the content you put out. Try and mention stuff that I like about a video that they've done recently, or I will watch content creators and make sure I think games would be a good fit and stuff. So I like to mention that too, so they know I'm actually familiar with their content. But I will present all three, or I'd maybe even just present one or two. Like I reached out to a few solo content creators, and I didn't pitch them
Mm,
16 candies because it's a 2 to 4 player family weight game. It's not a solo experience, So know who you're talking to as well.
makes
But
sense.
for somebody, I think maybe this would fit. All of it could fit. I would just pitch all three and say, hey, if you only like one, that's cool. Let me know. I'll send you one. If you like all three, I'll send you all three. Kind of situation. So that's the main way. And ways that I reach content creators is through YouTube. They usually have like an email you can contact them. There's different Facebook groups like the media and reviewer group. I'll post like, hey, these are my games. I'm looking to meet people. At conventions, I've met content creators that I've become friends with. On TikTok, I've met content creators. So you can reach out on Instagram or TikTok or even Facebook.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and sometimes I never get a response, and when that happens, I just brush it off. Content creators are really busy. Maybe they went to their spam. Maybe they saw, forgot to answer it. I know that happens to me sometimes. I'll send follow up emails every now and then. I don't like to be pushy, but if somebody is like, yeah, I want to do this, and then I don't hear from them, be like, hey, just wanted to touch base again. You know, are you still interested? Stuff like that. But yeah, collectively, I would present all three in most situations and be like, which ones are you interested in? And then we would figure it out from there with working with content creators.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm kind of curious about a lot of things
Yeah.
logistically with these three different games. The other thing I'm thinking is how are you handling this like three separate print runs, or are you able to bundle them into one print run? And then how does that affect what you're setting as your funding goal?
Yeah, so I've worked with several different manufacturers. With this one, I'm going to be working with Wingo, and yeah, we'll be printing all three games at once. I've sent them files. They did the prototypes for me, so they're familiar with the product and what's going to be happening. But we'll be printing everything at once. So I don't have a 100% understanding of everything manufacturing related, but I do have good understanding. But I'm assuming they're just buying all the paper at once for all three games, and that allows them to offer maybe a slightly better price depending on how many I'm going to be printing and stuff like that. But
Nice,
the print run will be all at once for sure.
cool.
And with the Tiny Game Series 2, I was trying to keep the development costs, so like working with graphic designers, artists, and stuff like that. It's a smaller game, so you can keep the development costs a little bit lower than if you're doing again a giant Euro game. There's a lot more art that you're going to need and stuff like that, so it's going to be more
Right.
expensive. So the idea behind the Tiny Game Series 2 is let's try and keep the development costs on the lower end. Not devaluing anyone's work or anything like that, but it just there's less that needs to be done.
Sure.
So I take that into consideration when I decide my funding goal. I am a little bit of an established indie publisher, so I do have other products selling, that helps
Yep.
me subsidize and pay for some of these things. So, and then the production, how much production or I think I'll need to print, all comes into consideration when I do the funding goal. And then, full transparency, a lot of people know this, lower funding goal gets hit faster. It looks good for your campaign. And, you can, looks good on the algorithm. So you set it a little bit lower. So I'm able to set it at a price point where like, even if no matter what, if I hit this, I can print. So
Yep.
I would never set
That's
it like
great.
so low that I'm like, I have to cancel the project because I think that is really damaging to the community. And I've seen it happen before. And not
Yep.
trying to knock any publishers or stuff, but I'm setting it at a point where no matter what, if I hit this number, I'm good to print it and then deliver it to everyone.
Yeah. I mean, it can be confusing for backers when they see a project fund and still cancel.
Yeah.
And that can leave a bad taste in your mouth. So yeah, I definitely recommend and will try to do myself when I launch on Kickstarter to make that funding goal. If you hit it, you can
Yeah.
print it,
And
and
again, like sometimes when you set your funding goal, you have in mind like I'm willing to subsidize this much, or maybe I'm not going to measure in my development costs because I needed to do that anyways, and my other products are paying. There's a lot of things to take in consideration. Depends
totally.
on how you're running your business, and again, is it a long term thing or short term, or like what exactly you're doing. But at the very bare minimum, be able to make the games and fulfill them to everyone.
Yes. That should be a no-brainer, but
Well, you would
sometimes
think,
it's
right?
not. Yeah.
I understand there's issues that happen and come up that affect things. So again, I'm not trying to knock
Yeah.
anyone or
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
like that.
Absolutely. So let's dig into some of the numbers. We like to just take a look at how many followers you have on your Kickstarter page, on your different social media platforms, and as we do this, maybe go into again how you're handling social media. Are you creating separate pages for each game? Are you creating like a Facebook page for the bundle, or are you just using your existing publisher accounts to promote these games?
Yeah, sure. Let me pull up some of my stuff so I can see how many followers I have on them. I don't know
Real
them
time. I
offhand.
like it.
Yeah, but yeah, which one do you want to know about first? I guess.
So Kickstarter. Let's start with that one.
Yeah. So Kickstarter, I'm up to 1,216 followers on the project.
Nice.
My personal goal and my experience has been whenever there's been 1,000, I've seen really good results on day one, funding, in the first day, something like that.
Yeah.
My last campaign, I think I had like 650 when I launched, and it was a struggle to hit the
Mm.
funding goal. And I think we funded with like 5 days left in the campaign. So I made like a funny banner. It was like, mind your business, funded in 674 hours, and I was sharing that around and everyone got a good laugh out of it. But
That's funny.
that
Yeah.
happened. And I said, you know what? For me personally, and again, all situational, might not be the right fit for everyone, but 1,000 is going to be my minimum moving forward. Obviously, more. So I'm over what I wanted my minimum to be. I would love for it to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000, but I'm happy. My minimum's 1,000, but my next campaign might be a little bit more because you're continuing to build your email list and your contacts and who you know. So it should scale in theory.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
cool.
I'm at that. And the main reason was building my email list, soliciting them, getting signups at conventions, and sending emails like, hey, the pre-launch page is up, or even providing links when I post stuff on Facebook and stuff like that. And that's how I've driven most of my traffic to get pre-launch follows.
All right, cool. So that sounds like that's a good, healthy number of followers on the Kickstarter project page. And you mentioned email addresses, so I'm curious what the numbers look like for your email list, and if you're kind of establishing a new list for this game series, or you're just leveraging the list of that you've built up over time.
Yeah, it's a good question. Typically, for each campaign, I will create a new list for those emails specifically so I know where they came from or what game. But I will solicit emails to everyone collectively. But I'm able to direct emails in a way uh, like if it was my last campaign, I know they backed the last campaign, so the email might be structured or worded a little bit differently than the one that I send to people that are specific here for the Tiny Game series. But sometimes things are able to just solicit everyone at once. And again, they joined your email list, so you can always contact them. But yeah, I have them separated by group, and then depending on the email I'm sending out, it'll be, the verbiage will be a little bit different. And right now, from like my previous campaigns and just other stuff, I have a list of like content creators that want to be informed of when I have new stuff that needs reviews. I have a list
nice.
of some retailers, so there's little, and they're smaller and stuff like that. But right now, my total email list is just it's like 3,000 or something, like right around that. So
Great.
and that's like collectively as a whole between everything.
Yeah, and that's always a pool that you can, tap into and notify when you have new games in the future. And so, talking about the growing and scaling over time, that number hopefully is just going to continue to grow.
Yeah, and that's the idea, continuing. So again, you're spending money on marketing to gain emails for this game now, but what's that going to look like on your next campaign where they're already on your email list? Like how do you measure that ROI? Like there's longevity to
Yeah,
a lot of this stuff. So
totally. Cool. And then shifting over to social media, you mentioned you've been focusing a bit on TikTok.
yeah.
What are kind of some of the follower numbers looking like over there?
So on TikTok, I think I have 1,400 followers.
Nice.
I have 1,425 followers. And then my videos really, they tend to get anywhere between 200 to 500 views. Sometimes there's a breakout where I get a couple thousand, which can be frustrating. I'm like, why aren't these getting more views? And I actually made a video the other day, and it was like part one of me posting anything online on TikTok and getting 200 to 500 views no matter what. And then TikTok's algorithm spite at me and gave me like 610 views. I was like, damn. It's like they did this because I called them out. uh,
Nice.
but yeah, and I think the cool thing with TikTok is just send messages, collab with people. I have a bunch of videos where it's like me with other TikTok content creators making stuff. But yeah, I have 1,400 on there, and
Cool.
one of the things I'll probably put in like the survey when I do, I'll use BackerKit likely for my pledge manager, is how did you hear about my campaign? And last campaign, did you hear? TikTok was an option, and there was a few, but I'm excited to see how many learn about it from TikTok this time around because
That'll be interesting.
yeah. So I'll compare that to Mind Your Business, and hopefully my time on TikTok has, the follower count or people heard of it from TikTok has increased.
Cool, and that's something we can circle back around in the second interview, the part
Yeah,
two of
definitely.
this. See how that panned out. Cool. And then how about like Facebook? Did you spin up a group or something around this game series, or you have something existing?
Yeah, so for Facebook, I obviously have my page for MV Born Games, which I don't post often on just because I think the algorithms that Facebook works, they don't really focus on pages that much.
Yeah, it's
So I
tough.
have the group that's attached to the page. And what I have been doing is every new game or new campaign I work on, I update the title of that group and I do an
Okay, that's
announcement. So
cool.
I go, it used
Yeah,
to be called Mind Your Business, blah, 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 blah. And then I do announcements of, hey, I know everyone was here because of Mind Your Business. Thank you for joining the MV Born Games group. I'm going to change it to our newest series. We can obviously talk about Mind Your Business or ask any questions openly about any of the games that I've done, but I'm going to continue to change the game based off of whatever is coming out. And I think Facebook has a certain number of members where they cut that off where you can't change the name anymore. I think it's like 5,000 or
oh
something.
yeah.
I have to look into it. I'm not 100% sure. But that's kind of been my idea is like, hey, these are all people that like my games and I want to keep them in one place for segmenting them. And then there's always people to answer questions about different games. And so far it's been fine. But my group, I have 481 members. It's not huge. It's not overly active or anything like that. But I do try and post some stuff. I do try and post content in there that I'm not posting in other groups. So it's like they're getting some information about stuff that, other people haven't seen. But yeah, I definitely like to post in there and keep people engaged as much as I can.
Cool. I think that's a good approach, is to just kind of change it up for each game, and then cross the bridge when you get there. If you get there for having so many members, that's a
Yeah.
good problem to have, right? Having so many members, you can't
Yeah.
change
Then
the
it would
name.
probably be like MV Born Games fan group or,
Right.
whatever we name it at the time. And then we would still use that for whatever project we're working on moving forward. So,
Very cool. All right. Well, that's about all the time we have. I would love for you to, before we head out, just kind of give the elevator pitch for all three of these games and let people know where they can find out more info.
Yeah, definitely. So the Tiny Game series is launching September 19th. 3 different games, 3 unique themes, mechanisms, and something unique about them. Sirens is a 1 to 2 player Greek mythology themed game. It is in the game you're taking on the role of a siren, where you'll be card drafting to build a song. At the end, you'll compare songs and see who's has the most points, and you'll win a sailor. The point of the game is to win 2 sailors. So it's a short travel-sized game that you can take anywhere. The really cool thing about Sirens is it has a companion app where when you're done playing, you can take a picture of the cards you drafted and it will play back the song that you created in real time to you. So that's the thing that I'm really excited about Sirens.
Yeah.
Defrag is a spatial awareness, hand management, puzzle-y grid game where you're playing cards to rotate cards and stack cards and move them around. But it also has a scenario manual that's scaled. There's 40 different scenarios, and they all present different challenging scenarios for you to overcome. So you can work your way through that versus just playing the base game where it's trying to beat your high score, basically, in the base game, which is fun too. But I just really like the aspect of the scenarios that present me with like different setups or different goals to achieve versus get the highest score I can. Cool. And then 16 Candies is a family weight light set collection game. The idea behind this was to get kids excited to play games or involved with the board game community, with families, a fun activity. But the idea behind it is you start with 16 health, but the 16 health, there's little cardboard chips you can use in the game, but the idea is to play with real candy or pieces of popcorn or something like that. So when you're losing your health, you get to eat it and have like a fun snack experience. Nice. So that's the thing that's unique about 16 Candies and really fun as well. And that game ends when one person's eliminated, and whoever has the most candy is the winner. So it's a shorter, lighter game aimed at a younger demographic to have a fun activity. All of this can be found on my Kickstarter page, which launches September 19th, or basically any social media handle. I'm NB Born Games.
Cool. And I'll have links to a few of those in the description below this video as well. All right. Well, great, Mathue. Thanks for all the super insightful information. I think this is going to help folks, who might be thinking of creating a series of games or bundling some small games together. And also your insights of having some experience in the industry is super valuable as well. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me. I hope some of this stuff helps people.
Absolutely. And thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button and click that bell icon to be notified of new videos, especially when we have the follow-up video with Mathue after the campaign is what I expect will be hugely successful. And we will see how it went and see what lessons he learned and all of that, along with future videos with other board game creators that I will have in the future. So that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.